on the pulpit is your freedom. It's your only chance to make it clear. Just open the lockbox and come alive. 'Cause if you come exploding out, you know when you breathe, shout, scream, let it out, let it out, let it out, let it out.
What's up, guys? It is Tuesday, September 14th, 2021. FritzCast coming at you earlier in the week, or later in the week if you want to count the fact that I didn't do a podcast last week and I'm putting it up at the beginning of this week. I don't know how you want to count that, but that's up to you. It's not up to me. I don't really care how you count it because it's FritzCast now. It's this week, and this week I have a great guest. Just got wrapped up with our conversation with Olivia Rondeau, which I've been saying it wrong all along. I've kept saying Rondeau, like she was French. I made her French. I hope Olivia can forgive me for that. Unless she wants to be the cool, badass French people that are like protesting and stuff and dumping literally piles of manure on government buildings because the French are actually pretty badass. You know, for all that I used to make fun of them and call them sissies, they're pretty badass. You know what I mean? But we had a great conversation. We talked a little bit about her background, what she's doing, college, COVID, Afghanistan, this crazy political world that we live in, echo chambers, puritanism, all this negative crap that has made her black-pilled, which maybe I quite possibly might be in that camp now too. Because my God, everything seems like every turning of the page, things just get more and more insane, or insaner if you want to be an uneducated hillbilly. But that's up to you, not up to me. But I think it was a great conversation and a great episode, and that's what we're going to get into. I'm not going to hold it up that much longer because it's been a couple weeks, but I do have a special announcement at the end of the show. So pay attention with these and with these. At the end of the show for an announcement on what's happening this Friday. Okay? This Friday. Important things are happening. Check it out. But right now, Olivia Rondeau on FritzCast. All right, my guest this week is Olivia Rondeau. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. You know, it's funny just because we were just talking off screen. I think one of the funniest things I do when I do interviews is I always talk to the guest a couple minutes before I bring you on, and then I hit record and I act like I hadn't just talked to you. So
yeah, well, I'm used to that. I'm used to it by now. I do like a ton of podcasts, so it's always like that.
Yeah, it's one of the I guess stupid things about it, but anyway, how you doing this evening?
I'm good. I had kind of like a long week, so I'm good to just be like here just doing a podcast, not like running around at like a rally or riot or something.
I was gonna say you keep yourself pretty busy. You're involved in a lot of stuff right now.
Yeah, I do everything, which like I have no like time to do it like really anything else. So I've been like lacking on the podcast lately. I barely have done any. So
oh no,
good to be back.
I totally understand that because I've been out of the loop for about 2 weeks now, and it happens more and more frequently ever since I moved. I used to do it like every Friday. I used to do an episode, and it was either me solo or I'd be doing interviews. But I get busy with crap now, and sometimes what's going on in the world is so crazy. I'm just like, everybody else is talking about it. I'll take a break for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I feel like at some point when I try to like bring up a topic, it's like beating a dead horse because everybody has said like all there is to say on something. So then I'm just like, all right, let me shut up then.
Oh yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, like, there's literally 900 podcasts out there.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, though, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and what got you into doing podcasts, whether you're being a guest on them or running your own podcasts?
Um, I don't know how to go from my background to like doing podcasts. That's like a it's like
Let's
a
just
long story.
let's just condensed background. Like give us a crash course on Olivia, not the A&E, autobiography thing.
Okay. Background. I'm from Maryland. I was born and raised in Maryland. It's very liberal here, so I'm definitely feeling alone a lot of times in my thoughts, especially given like the demographic boxes I fit into. It's just like not popular to have the opinions I have here. So that's probably what led me to not just podcasts, but to like even create like my social media in the first place, which led me to writing and making videos and podcasting and all that kind of stuff. I feel like it just came from me having unpopular opinions and not really having people to talk about it with in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get that. And in Maryland, I'm in Delaware. I'm right next door to you. And
Oh, okay.
Delaware, yeah, Delaware is always blue state. It's hard to
Yeah.
find a Republican up in the northern counties. I just actually moved down in the southern area, which I think is a little bit better because we at least have some Republican leadership down here.
Yeah.
But the state's pretty much controlled by Newcastle County. This is Joe Biden's backyard and home state. So everything's kind of in lockstep with loving Joe Biden. At least the northern half loves Joe Biden. We're not so fond of him down here.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
annoying. I mean, I live in like one of the more liberal parts of Maryland because obviously we have our more Republican parts too, but it's like more like less densely populated. It's like super rural.
yeah, yeah, exactly. As soon as I moved out, I'm pretty much in the sticks right now in Delaware. So I find it much better than when I was up near Wilmington.
hmm I'm like, I want to say I'm in the sticks, but I'm like as close as to the sticks you can get and still be considered in like the DC metro area.
Yeah,
Like I'm like right on the outskirts, so it's
right.
nice because I'm in the burbs, but I'm also like close to the city, like for work and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, you get to like the best of both worlds vibe, and you can avoid an hour commute like I go through every day.
hmm
So there's the podcasting aspect and all that. I know you've done you've done a lot of things too. You were a wrestler for a little bit, or you still do that?
Yeah, I still practice. I'm not
Yeah.
competing right now because I ended up like taking on a bunch of work this year at kind of like the last second over the summer, and I was like, oh, I don't even need to go to school right now. I can just like work and not get into debt. So I was like, let me just not go back this semester and see if I can still like, practice and do sports at home. And so I've been doing jujitsu and wrestling on a less frequent basis than I would like lately. Um, but I actually am starting rugby soon, so that's gonna be fun too.
Oh, damn!
Yeah.
You're just into all the contact beat 'em up sports, aren't you?
Yeah, I feel like that probably influenced me politically as well, just because I'm just really competitive. I'm just a really competitive
Yeah,
person. So
yeah. What were you going to college for?
what was I going for?
Yeah,
Political science, which is not really a surprise to anybody, but it's actually like the lamest degree ever. And I found that I would have probably been better off going for like journalism or something because that's what I ended up doing now.
right.
So maybe if I do go back, I'd probably want to switch my major to that. And I'm not like anti-college. I'm just anti-college for me right now at like this
Yeah,
point in my life.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I can get that. I went to college and I actually I graduated with a degree in communications. So I guess you can say it's kind of working for me on this front. But before that, I was actually in college for as you said, political science might be the most worthless degree. I was in for the second most worthless degree, which was criminal justice.
that is that worthless? That sounds like not
I f- I
worthless.
feel like criminal justice. I feel like the criminal justice degree is waved out there for people who are in public sector like policing and all that, and it's just kind of like, for me, at least in my experience, that's just been a another hurdle out there in you trying to seek promotions and things like that. So when I was taking my criminal justice degrees, they seemed pretty useless, but I'm sure there's people who have taken them on like a legal aspect, like people who are studying law
Yeah.
probably got more out of it than I would have got out of it. And I wish I paid a little more attention, because now I'll go like I'll hear what the Supreme Court's doing, and I try to break down like all this case law stuff, and I don't understand it because it's written in Latin.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
but
that was stuff like I was taking con law this like last semester, and I was like hella confused by it too.
yeah. Yeah, I figured out how to break down like when they're citing court cases and all that. It's literally mumbo jumbo until you figure out what the breakdown is. And I know Google can just, you can Google search it and it'll tell you how to do it. But
Mhm.
that's one of the aspects in college that I wish I paid more attention to, just because of what I dive into now, breaking down
Mhm.
politics and law and all that. But
I feel
still,
like I learned more like on the internet than in school for poli sci. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, I mean, well, there's big, huge internet communities and people that you can engage with, and I was stating earlier, there's a ton of podcasts that you can catch on law and legal
Yeah,
stuff.
I
And
just feel like it's much better to, because it's like without the bias. Because I have like very, very liberal and biased professors. Like my con law professor, he's very anti-Second Amendment. And I'm like, how are you a constitutional law professor and completely are against the Second Amendment? Like I just didn't understand it.
yeah,
And I had a bunch of different like crazy liberal professors that were always like trying to like shove their little like ideology into the lesson. So I was just like, I literally can learn this from the internet. So goodbye. I'm out of here.
you can learn it from the internet, and you won't be taking out any massive student loans
Yeah,
to try to get
fuck
it.
that. Oh wait, sorry, can I cuss?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I should ask. But yeah, I don't have any student debt. I'm not planning on getting any student debt. So
That's good. That's a good approach, because somebody, maybe me, was an idiot and didn't do it that way.
well, it's like I don't think anyone's an idiot for accruing student debt because people act like you have to, and people act like it's the norm, and that like it's fine. Everybody has student debt, but it's actually like bad advice to tell somebody to just like not care about the debt,
Oh
especially when
yeah.
they're like 18 years old and like they're like 18 years old getting into like six figures of debt, and like you don't think about it at the time. But I have a lot of friends who are like $150,000 in debt, and they're
That's
just like,
insanity.
well, yeah,
That's insanity. And some of them are in it for the most like bizarre degrees I've ever heard of.
yeah. The person So I know someone who is about to take the bar in California. So they have like a bunch of um like college debt and like grad or what's it called, law school debt, and they have like 150 or like 180,000 or something. But at least there's actually money in that degree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, is it worth $150,000 in debt though? I don't know, because you'll be paying that off for like decades.
That's a lot of money to undertake. I mean, it's one thing for like, I feel like, I have a mortgage for my house. I feel like that debt is like, I'm consistently working on it to have this be mine at the end of,
Right,
a set term. Whereas
right.
I feel like college,
And it's an
like,
asset too.
yeah, yes, yeah. And I feel like, I don't know how you felt growing up in school, but I always felt in school that it was just a big fear mongering thing. Like, you got to go to college or you're going to be the homeless hobo.
Yeah.
You choose, take on the debt. Don't even worry about what you want to study. Go, you'll figure it out. Yeah, you'll incur all this debt,
Right.
but
It's like all
everybody
these kids that
does.
go there and don't even have a major picked out. I'm just like, take a gap. Like take a gap semester until you
Yeah.
figured it out.
Yeah, I bounced around like probably I think three different majors. I started out as a business major. I went to the criminal justice thing, and then I finally ended up on communications, which was I think the last 2 years of my
Yeah.
study.
So even with the poli sci major, I might like if I do go back, I might just finish it and add journalism as a minor for that reason, because I don't want to like have to start all over and pay a bunch of money for like extra classes that I should have been taking, earlier as a freshman and stuff. So
Yeah, it's
I don't
crazy.
know. And a lot of it's unfortunate because like a lot of these like right wing outlets are like, blue collar, like you don't need a college degree, like don't send your kids to like Marxist universities, but they only hire people with college degrees. So it's
Yeah,
like you guys are hypocrites.
yeah. It's really so. That's actually one of the things that I love about you. When I listen to your shows or any of the interviews that you do, is because I can't like it's not like any cookie cutter thing with you that pops up. Like I can't just say like you're purely on this side of the spectrum or purely on that side of the spectrum. You kind of have a balance.
I would agree with that. And it's funny because I always get called like, oh, she's a fake libertarian or fake conservative or fake Republican. I'm just like, I'm not even claiming to be a Puritan on any of those things. It's like,
Right.
I'm not claiming to have a very pure ideology. I claim to be consistent with my own personal ideology, but I'm not claiming to like be a part of, anyone's group or trying to claim anyone's title for their ideology. So it's just odd that people accuse me of that all the time because I am like, I don't call myself a centrist or anything, but it's kind of hard for people to like pinpoint where I'm at a lot of the time. So I get accused of like being fake like a lot. It's really annoying.
Well, is a lot of that from the online environment?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah, because I feel like more and more like the bigger that or the more that I've used Twitter, the more and more I've like scaled back and tried to move away from it because I feel like there's a lot of that going on. I know that you've been on a lot of libertarian shows. You've palled around with a lot of us libertarians like Reed
Yeah.
Coverdale and the Tower Pod Gang and Joshua Smith and all that. But
Yeah.
you're not. I never like right on your Twitter page. It doesn't even say libertarian. It says conservatarian, does it not?
Yeah. So I'm very straight up and like admitting that I'm not a Puritan conservative. I'm not a Puritan libertarian. I have like a mixture of both. And so I put that up there because it used to say, I think at one point it just said conservative. And then I started being like, hey, maybe I do lean more libertarian. So I try to accurately, put that out there because that was around the time when I was kind of realizing a lot of things. Like, I think when I first became political, I was like, okay, so I'm definitely not like a leftist or a liberal. I guess the only choice is to be like a Republican or conservative. And then I kind of realized that there's another choice and you don't have to fit into a box and you can lean more liberty and still be like kind of conservative or right leaning. But a lot of people don't get that. So I try to be upfront about that. But like still, that literally doesn't deter anyone from calling me like a fake conservative or a fake libertarian. Especially like you said, especially because I'm friends with like a lot of libertarians and go on their podcasts and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you were a pure libertarian, we shit on each other all the time. I mean,
yeah, I
real.
think honestly it's kind of a badge of honor to be called a fake libertarian because I'm like, at least I'm libertarian enough for people to think I'm like LARPing as a libertarian. So
Yeah.
I'm like, at least like nobody thinks I'm like a neocon or something. Like that's like whatever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you think this like purism that people are so, I don't know, thirsty for is a huge problem when it comes to life?
Absolutely. It creates like so many like riffs on Twitter. And it's just like people are getting blocked over like the littlest fucking disagreements. And it's like, oh, so it's like, oh, you disagree on how to do something. We agree on the goal, but we disagree on how to do it. Why are you guys blocking each other? Why are you guys arguing? I don't understand. Or I find it very common with people who basically ideologically think exactly the same, but they have different like vehicles of achieving libertarian ideals. So like, some people are in the GOP, some people are independent, some people are in the LP. There's different caucuses in the LP, and they're all arguing. I'm like, you guys agree on 95% of the same shit. You're just arguing on how to achieve it. So that does piss me off when everyone's like not libertarian enough, depending on how they want to achieve libertarianism. Because I feel like I'm not the type of person to put all my eggs in one basket. So I'm not like a super pro LP person. I'm not a super like we can only win in the GOP person. I'm just like wherever works at the time. But a lot of people are very, very Puritan about that.
Oh yeah, I think you'll get the most shit if you like right now if I have a discussion with libertarians and we're talking about like Ron DeSantis or something, I'm like, listen, if Ron DeSantis ran and the Libertarian Party's putting up crap, yeah, I'll vote for Ron DeSantis. Like I'd rather be under that than another. Well, I sincerely doubt it'll be another term of Joe Biden, but if they try to like, push Kamala Harris up there or whoever they really do, it's honestly, it's going to be like, yeah, I'll go Ron DeSantis.
You know what's funny? Ron DeSantis is like one of the things that people get really, really mad about because I don't like Ron DeSantis. And they're like, you're a fake libertarian if you don't like Ron DeSantis.
Wow,
like, what?
Really?
Yeah, it's like that group of people who are like the more like I guess like probably like paleo libertarians that like really don't like me because I'm not like just super paleo or whatever the fuck. So they're like really mad that I don't like Ron DeSantis because they're like, he's the most liberty governor in America. I'm like, okay,
Okay.
and he's still a statist, so I don't like
Yeah.
what do you want me to do?
Yeah, the most liberty thing like that to me is bullshit. Like I'm fully admitting that he's not. I'm just like
Thank
if I
you,
had
because
to.
it's like, oh my god, he did the bare minimum of not literally like ruining people's lives during the pandemic. Wow, like big pat on the back for you, but
Yeah.
you're
Right.
still horrible on a lot of other shit. It's like I get like the incremental success and stuff, but at this point I'm like so blackpilled. I'm like, honestly, people are not even gonna wake up until it's like full acceleration as time. So if Kamala becomes president and like bans everything and that's what it takes to wake people to fuck up and like actually do something, I'm actually fine with that. So
So be it, huh?
yeah, because I feel like Ron DeSantis will get up there and he'll do some nice symbolic gestures. He'll write a decree that it says no more critical race theory. We're banning all critical race theory, and then everyone's just like, woo! Ron DeSantis is banning critical race theory and Marxism in schools, but meanwhile he just sent like $7 trillion to Israel, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't trust the guy really.
Yeah. No, I think that those are legitimate concerns with him. Um, honestly, yeah, those are things that people don't take into consideration, I guess, because of what's going on the forefront right now. I mean, so obviously, I could throw out there and I can ask you, like Joe Biden's statements a couple of days ago, where he basically said, if you're a private business and you have 100 or more employees, either get them vaccinated or make them test weekly. How do you feel about that?
I mean, that's horrible. I think we're going to see a lot of noncompliance. I just wrote an article for FEE on civil disobedience and noncompliance. And I've been writing a lot with Tim Cass recently about similar topics, mainly vaccine passports in New York City and how people are planning to fight against that. So I really feel like there really is no other way out of this than noncompliance. I mean, people can't just be like, oh, it's a private business, they can do what they want, because it's not the private business making the decisions anymore.
Yeah.
I would be a lot less angry about it if it was just like Walmart saying, hey, you have to have a mask to come in, or hey, you have to swipe your vaccine card before you come in. I'm like, okay, I'm just not gonna shop at Walmart no more. But I think this is like crazy government overreach, and it's anti-science, because everybody knows that people who are vaccinated can still test positive for COVID, can still be hospitalized with COVID, can still spread COVID. It just like lessens the effects, allegedly. But they don't have to get tested weekly because they've been vaccinated, even though they can still catch it, even though they can still spread it. So I just like the party that is so like pro science and calls everybody else anti science isn't even being pro science right now. They're just trying to manipulate people into getting the vaccine so they don't have to get tested every week.
That's actually been my biggest argument over this past couple weeks. But because I figured I figured this was coming, and my biggest argument was that how are you going to sit there and tell me that that requiring somebody unvaccinated to take a weekly test isn't some type of form of discrimination against them, because you're giving the vaxxed guys a pass, despite the fact that they can still catch, they can still spread, therefore you still have a problem. But
Yeah.
because the other guy or the other person isn't getting the jab, you're going to make quote unquote their life a living hell until they do. That's discrimination.
Yeah, I think that Democrats and liberals were literally chomping at the bit for the chance to discriminate against people they perceive to be Trump supporters, even though, as we all know, not everybody who's not vaccinated is a Trump supporter. People just value their medical freedom. But I think a lot of people were like, oh yeah, we're going to get these Trump supporters and force them to get vaccinated. We're going to laugh in their faces. And if they don't, they can't come in my store. And it's going to be so great. I can discriminate against them all I want. Meanwhile, our freedoms are being eroded, and they're like looking at it like, oh, well, too bad, like it's like I think it's out of hate. Like people genuinely want to discriminate against us.
Yeah, I feel like it's just them saying, well, it sucks to suck. And it's just because you got Joe Biden in, and they're not even proud. Like there's nothing that they can really truly say that they like about Joe Biden. It's just that like, oh, mean tweets are gone.
Yeah. Like nobody looks at him as a leader. They're like, oh, it's just, it's good old Uncle Joe. Like he's just familiar and pretty mundane.
Yeah, no, I saw your tweet about that earlier. I thought that was
I unironically think he's a pedophile, but since nobody else thinks that. They're just like, oh, he's just a kindly old sweet Uncle Joe. He's Obama's vice president. That means he's pretty cool. And it just like amazes me because there's like 16 different videos of him like sniffing children. And I'm just like,
Right.
I don't know, like wake up, sheeple. But
right. That
that's
doesn't
just me.
even that doesn't even cover my entire lifetime of him being in Congress and stuff that he said over the past 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like he's everything that they accuse Trump of being and like 5 times worse, 10 times worse. So it's just like, I don't know. I've lost hope for humanity.
No, I'm kind of there with you. That's why I moved out to the sticks.
Nice.
But beside that though, that's where we are now. I don't think I kind of believe what you said is right. I think there's going to be a lot of non-compliance, and there's going to be a lot of you're not going to really be able to enforce it from the people not complying. It's kind of like an empty threat almost. As long as people actually mass not comply. If people comply, then well, shit.
I'm waiting to see what happens in New York because they seem to have the strictest rules with the whole vaccine passports to even participate in fucking public society. And so
That's
I've already
crazy.
spoken to some people there that I know there that are planning like literally like restaurant sit-ins where you walk into a restaurant or bar and refuse to show your vaccine passport and make them arrest you. So I think we're going to see some of that. Hopefully people who are telling me they're going to do that are not bluffing because I'd really like to see that. Because I feel like we're at a point where we have to be willing to be arrested for standing up at this. It's like we can't just tweet about it anymore.
Yeah, tweets are worthless when it comes to this. You can tweet
Yeah.
the best thing on the face of the planet, and it doesn't matter if you're not going to be. You can tweet up that big storm, but if you're not going to be the person that takes the step, it's worthless at this point.
Exactly.
So in Maryland, I haven't. I don't think I've gone into Maryland over the past couple of weeks. But are you like, have you run into anything where like you have to show a vaccine passport or some kind of proof of vaccination?
I haven't had to deal with that yet. However, I know when I go to my first rugby practice, I'm gonna have to show proof of vaccination. So I'm trying to figure that out without incriminating myself. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, mum's the word on that one. We'll stop talking about that. But,
yeah, I'm getting vaccinated.
Right. She's getting her shot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I may or may not be vaccinated, but I'm actually getting an antibodies test just because I'm curious.
And that's another part that's anti-science. They don't care if you have antibodies. They don't care if you have a natural resistance to it.
I know. That's why theoretically speaking, if I get the antibodies test and it comes back and it shows that I have it, I'm gonna be ruffling some feathers, as it were.
Yeah, like literally show that as your proof. You have antibodies. You're not gonna get it. You're not gonna spread it.
I haven't ran into any of that in Delaware either. I haven't tried to gone I haven't tried to gone. Wow. I haven't tried to go to any like big public event or anything like any of the football games, but I don't even think they're requiring proof of vaccination per se at those things either.
Maybe not where you're at, but I've definitely seen it. They're like segregating, like I think at maybe Nats Park or something. I think they're segregating like they're gonna start segregating like ball games and stuff, which is like really stupid.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, how's it been for you, like going out in public, like when you go to grocery stores or anything like that? Like if I go to any store here in Delaware, none of them even have any of the postings in the doorways anymore about masks or anything, and it's
really
basically
no. We have to wear a mask here.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every store I've walked into in Delaware, it's like it's a 50-50 shot. You're either going to see, you might see some people wearing them. You see a lot of people not wearing them. I haven't seen any place that has required me or asked me or forced me to leave or forced me to put one on, except for like a federal building or a state government building.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I have to wear like everywhere, like on the metro, in the store, just getting coffee, or just like really anything. Like even into a restaurant, then you can take it off when you sit down because there's no COVID at the tables,
Yeah, isn't that okay, so when COVID, like when they were easing up a little bit and like restaurants could open up and all that, I thought that was the stupidest like COVID rule ever.
There's no COVID at the tables. It's science.
Just this walk in with the restaurant and wear it and to your table. When you get to the
It's
table, you can take it
science.
off.
It's like you're not understanding me. It's science. Unless you're a grandma killer, you would just do it.
Oh man, both my grandmas are dead, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's not. No, no. It's been years, but that's ridiculous, man. Excuse me. So that covers COVID. What about Afghanistan? What's your thoughts on that front?
I've been kind of annoyed with the discourse lately because it seems like a lot of people, um, there's like a lot of no nuance takes, honestly. Some people are like, at least we got out. Like, we can't complain that Biden botched the pullout because at least we're out now. It's like a lot of Puritan libertarians who are just like, we need to get out. Like, it doesn't matter how we got out. It doesn't care. Like, doesn't matter how many people left behind. I'm just like, that seems disrespectful. And on the other side, it's like the hardcore like neoconservatives were like, see, we should have never abandoned them. We should have never pulled out because this is always inevitable. I'm like, I really don't think that either of those are the answer. I think we definitely needed to pull out. I think that whether it was going to be immediately or in 30 or 60 or 90 days wouldn't have made that much of a difference in the long run, just because we've already been there for 20 years. So if they needed extra time to plan, which they clearly did, they should have just taken that. And it's sad. I've shared probably like 10 GoFundMe's from some of the I guess soldiers or I think Marines that died there. On my Twitter, and it's really sad because it's like kids that are my age, kids that are younger than me, kids who weren't even alive during 9/11, and it just really like fucks me up to see that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and furthermore, like you're right. There's no like I don't think there's any one like golden take on how it would on how it could be better. The
We
way
just
that
know
I
it was wrong. We just
yeah
know it was wrong. We knew that they definitely needed to plan more, and that they neglected. I mean, they left people behind. They left their dogs behind. They left weapons behind. They left vehicles behind. Like, it was clearly a botched pullout. Nobody can say it wasn't botched.
yeah yeah, and I think like it's one thing to say it's been 20 years and it's time for it to end, and I've been saying that for probably the last 7 years of my life.
Yeah.
Like this is a war that just is an endless war, and it needs to stop. But I forget exactly the way I put it after it happened, but I said on one sense I'm glad that it's done, but nobody wanted it this way. Like nobody wanted to just snap our fingers, have it end, and then see all this chaos ensue, whether or
Yeah.
not the chaos was going to.
I mean, all it's doing is setting us up to go back. It's
Mhm.
going to be worse. I don't think that we've left for good because we botched it so bad.
Yeah, and there's concern for that as well. And I know they keep bringing up a new faction of ISIS in the mix and all that.
Yeah, now there's
And
ISIS-K and Kabul, and just everywhere is basically in crisis because the Taliban took over, and I just like it. And it's helping the neoconservative arguments that are like, if we don't have a presence there, innocent people are gonna get killed, women are gonna get raped, they can't go to school, they have no rights. I'm like, that is literally what that is quite literally what is happening right now. But that that's what they were gonna do either way. I'm just saying it's a shame that we left so carelessly, and it's a shame that actually aided the neocon argument, because now I genuinely think that they're going to go back and be like, see, we should never have left, this is what happens. But it seems planned to me. I don't know if that's crazy, but it seems planned to me that they couldn't have put that little thought into pulling out. They just couldn't have forgotten like the dogs and just left the dogs in the airport. Like, that's just insane.
yeah, it's funny though, for all the conservative neocon talk, Tulsi Gabbard put out like a really bizarre tweet over the whole thing on 9/11
Was
about
it the one that was like, this is like Islamist terrorism, and everyone like got mad about it?
yeah.
Yeah, I need to go back and look at that because I kind of saw it, but I didn't really like look at it for too long because I was like, I'm gonna look at that later. But I remember it was, oh yeah, she said, let us # never forget that it was the Islamist ideology which inspired the terrorist attacks and declaration of war against America on 9/11. And it is this Islamist ideology that continues to fuel terrorist attacks around the world and is the foundation for so-called Islamic countries like Pakistan, Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia's discriminatory policies against Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, etc. That's mad funny.
Yeah.
And all the libertarians came out and were like super mad about that.
Yeah. It was it was a pretty big Twitter blow up the other day when she posted
and
it.
I saw Reed was pretty mad about that because Reed used to work for Tulsi, so that's kind of funny to see him getting pissed off at her all the time now.
Yeah, it is kind of funny to see that. So, what do you think? What do you think? Like, is the most important thing that well, I think we already kind of discussed what the most important thing we're facing is mass non-compliance.
Yep.
Do you think? How do you think it's going to go over for us in that fight? Or do you think that this is kind of like it's kind of hard to predict right now because it depends on how?
It's hard to predict. I think we'll get a good indication of how it's going to go when all this is really I guess like they just announced it. So when they put it into action, like whenever that will be, we're going to see a lot of businesses getting shut down and probably a lot of business owners going to jail. And, you know, I'm hopeful because I feel like if it doesn't happen, then I'm just completely blackpilled because if people don't stand up to this, they're not going to stand up to anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a test of time. And I think that, I think personally, I think the vibe that's going amongst the general public is just kind of like this being fed up with this, and I kind of told people as we were in summer, because a lot of restrictions were going lax and people had a little bit more freedom to go out and do things and kind of, experience somewhat normal life. I kept telling people like, don't get too excited. Don't get too excited and don't think that this is going to be how it stays. Because I said right around the corner when summer's over, I said, watch them start clamping down and going back. And it's going to be just like last winter, where they're going to tell you, hey, you probably shouldn't have a big Thanksgiving, with your family or visit friends,
And people literally fell for that shit and people literally obeyed that shit. And that's the part that really pissed me off because I saw all these dramatic posts on my timeline like, oh, wow, like I had to say goodbye to my dying father from outside the hospital window because we couldn't go in because of COVID. I'm like, are you people fucking serious?
Yeah,
you guys are like sucking Fauci's dick that much that you like can't participate in like key moments in your life. Like that shit pissed me off. So that's why I'm kind of blackpilled at the moment because I feel like they're just not gonna fight for anything if they can't fight for that.
Yeah, my goodness, I'm glad you brought that up because a buddy of mine, I was on his show last year, I want to say in March or April or around that time, and we were talking about COVID. Stephen Ignoramus, I don't know if you know his name or not. He's done a lot of live streaming down in DC when the protests were going on.
Okay.
But when he had me on his show, we were talking about that. And I remember bringing up, I was like, because my buddy's grandmother had just died and his family was faced with that. They were only allowing like 10 people at funerals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's the biggest bullshit I've ever heard. Like you have to now sit down if a loved one dies and like go through a tally list and see who's worthy of going to a funeral. That's insane.
Literally insanity. And like weddings, like just anything, literally anything. Thanksgivings, Christmas. People are like, oh my God, when people tell me, oh, I haven't seen my mom in like 18 months because of the COVID restrictions. She lives in like 2 states away. I'm like, you guys are crazy. Unless my mom is like literally so fragile that if I breathe on her wrong, she's gonna die. I'm not gonna not see her for a year and a half because of COVID restrictions. Like, I understand being cautious around people who have compromised immune systems and people who are older. I've worn a mask around my grandma before. I really don't have, until she got vaccinated, I really don't have a problem with, like, I'm not an anti-vax person. I personally just don't feel like I need it. I feel like if you're old, at risk, go ahead, wear the mask, take the vaccination, do whatever you want to do to keep yourself safe. Just don't tell me to do that shit. So it's like, I'll be safe. It's not me being like so anti-science. I just think that these people who are so scared are the real anti-science ones.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that, and that's something that like my wife's grandmother can't can't get the vaccination. She actually has medical conditions that in which she hasn't been able to take any vaccinations. She can't take certain medications, all that jazz, and she'll come over and visit and wear a mask, and we'll be outside and all that. We take those considerations in for her. But like my own mother, like I asked her over the holidays last year. I was like, "So are we limiting like the family stuff or whatever?" She said, "Oh no." I said, "Everybody's coming for Christmas. Everybody's coming for Thanksgiving." And
Yeah.
she was just like, I think her words were, I don't have that much longer left on this planet anyway, and I'm not gonna give it up for for my better for a year or two when that's just bullcrap. And
I
that
mean,
was
that's pretty impactful. And I think a lot of older people share that sentiment. Like a lot of people, like I'm sure like the old people that died alone in hospice because their family couldn't come and see them, I bet they would have given anything in the world to see their whole family. But no, people are so stuck in their Fauci worship that they were just completely okay ruining people's moments and lives like this past year.
I assume I assume you've watched a lot of the Rand Paul Fauci exchanges at these hearings and stuff.
I have. Okay, I wouldn't say a lot, but I've written a little bit about Rand Paul his statements lately at feast, so I have to watch a couple of them every once in a while.
Yeah. I thought I at least I can cheer Rand Paul and his consistency on going for Fauci, especially with how it was just revealed recently that he pretty much lied to Congress about funding and gain of function research.
Yeah. And so now I think Fauci should go to jail, but people are literally not even talking about the fact that he got exposed. So
yeah, it's crazy. And there he sits still at the head of NIH, probably one of the most top paid people in the United States government.
Oh, for sure. For sure. He's definitely a multimillionaire right now.
It's insane. That's insane. All right, Olivia, I've had you on for about 40 minutes now. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but you mentioned Fee, you mentioned some of the things you do. So where can people find you online? What's some of the work that you do, and how can we keep up with what's going on in Olivia's world?
Sure. So I'm on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Olivia Rondeau, Rondeau, and mainly I've been writing for Fee and Timcast lately. Those are the two main publications I've been working for. But I also started. I just got a contract with Larry Sharp to do some video work for him. So I will be on the Sharp Way. Yeah. So I'll be on the Sharp Way pretty frequently for like the next few months as well.
That's awesome. I love Larry Sharp and the Sharp Way.
He's the best. He's like my dad.
I have
like so many like libertarian like dads and stuff in the movement now. Like Spike Cohen's also my dad. Yeah. But like Larry actually treats me like I'm his daughter or something. Like he like has all this fatherly advice. Spike treats me like horribly. He's the shittiest parent in the world. I hate him. He doesn't like me. He always is like he'll always like send me some random shit and be like, "This is why I left you. It wasn't in your life for 20 years." Like he'll always like say some dumb shit like that. So I don't like Spike. Yeah. Wow. But people somebody had literally asked me if him and Tasha were my parents because they pulled up to the Solutionary Summit like a couple weeks ago when I was in Miami, and I was just like, that would be kind of funny if I posted a selfie with them on Twitter and just said they were my parents. And he was like totally on board with that. Like we took a selfie and he was like, okay, post it, and we like coordinated like, and he told me he was going to use like #family and like retweet it and stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, wow, oh my god, I didn't know you related to Spike Cohen. I was like, people are so fucking gullible.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And he would have had to have me when he was pretty young, but technically he is old enough to be my dad. So
yeah, that's crazy, man. Love Spike too. He's crazy.
Yeah.
Though.
If he was a 19-year-old father, he could have had me. Which is not unheard of. So I guess people believed it. So
yeah. No, Olivia, thanks for taking the time to come on my show and be on another libertarian podcast. But I appreciate
to be back on
the
libertarian podcast circuit. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, and that wraps up my conversation with Olivia. I'm really, really thankful that she took the time to come on this Just Another Libertarian Pod. I'm just another libertarian podcast in a sea of 9 billion libertarian podcasts because you're not a real libertarian if you don't have a podcast. So if you're out there and you're listening and you think you're a libertarian and you're not producing some kind of content that people can watch or consume or listen to, I don't hate breaking it to you. These are the fucking rules. You're not a libertarian. Get on the game and become one. All right? That's how this works. Now, shout out, happy birthday to my daughter. My daughter's birthday was on the 12th. She turned 2. My God, she turned 2. I can't believe how fast time goes. Like, sometimes it seems slow, but, 2 years old. 2 years old, and she's having full conversations. And my goodness. And then special shout out birthday to my wife, whose birthday's today on September 14th. She's turning 30, or I should say 34, because she keeps saying that I'm 37 when I'm only 32. To get at me, make me feel old. But I said that something special is coming up on Friday. On Friday, your boy is going to be on Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith. I got the invite to come on Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith. I've been immortalized by Top Lobster, and nothing like that's libertarian podcast pinnacle for me. That's gonna be lit, and that's gonna also be live on Friday. So tune in to Joshua's channel, Break the Cycle, because he has a great show. He's actually a true libertarian podcast, unlike me, which is just an amateur libertarian podcast. I mean, this is the coolest thing I have. This background. That's why it's featured all the time, every time. That's the coolest that it gets on FritzCast, is that back there. But it's going to be great to be on Break the Cycle. I'm really looking forward to whatever Josh throws my way. And doing it live is just, I don't do anything live except Steven Ignoramus interviews, which, Steven, I haven't forgot about you, buddy. Much love. And I even talked about you in this interview. So then you know that it's not just bullshit, that I actually love you. So take that for what you will. But guys, thanks for listening. Remember, you can find me on Twitter at FritzQS, Facebook.com/TheFritzCast, FritzCastPodcast@gmail.com for all your Gmail messaging needs. And remember, I love you, and I'll see you on Friday, live on Friday. Don't miss it. If you miss it, you can watch it, but you're not going to be as cool as catching it live.